Hey Javier, how you doing? I've got your post. Where the heck did it go? Oh, here we are. Okay. So the one thing I want to mention is that you've got images in all four, and this assignment requires image only in the fourth composition. No images in the first, second, or third. And I addressed that in my responses to several of the classmates that had posted before you. So my recommendation, Javier, would be before you post, if there's posts before you with critique, go ahead and read through them. Heck, I mean, it's a really great way to get a couple of critiques under your belt before you post. So definitely want to do that. And I think that if you had that been done, I think that we would have eliminated this right here, the fact that you've got images in all four, and the instructions indicate image only in the fourth. Okay, so in your first composition, you've successfully. So again, I guess so. In your submission, you only want the image in the fourth. Okay, there's a couple other things I want to address too. So what you want to do is you want to definitely go over and review the week 3 assignment 3 part 1. Instructions and objectives. So definitely go through this right here, and I'll talk about this in a little bit in 1 second. Now, the one thing I'm not seeing a grid in your work. I'm seeing placement, but I don't see a common grid. So in this assignment, the first thing you want to do is you want to establish a grid. Superimpose that grid over all 4 compositions and make sure you're using that grid. Now, over in this week's announcements, I've got some really great lecture here on the grid. So over in the Welcome to 3 announcement, you want to definitely view this welcome, read this introduction, how to design using a grid. Here's some nice links to for more resources regarding the grid. Here is a video that addresses how to create and use a grid. Now, this is using InDesign, but you just go ahead and do a quick Google image search on how to create a grid using Illustrator. If that's what you're using, if you're using Illustrator. So the point is, and then here's some nice examples of grids, and then here's some nice examples of grids in action. Okay, so definitely want to review that stuff, so that we can get the grid in here too. Right now you're doing very well establishing typographic hierarchy. However, the grid itself is not, it's not apparent to me. So, and one of the main reasons I'm saying that is because, as we see right here, that would be the outside margin, but that is pushed in a little bit, so that's not an alignment. Okay, so that's kind of indicates, same thing here. Right here, you're pushed right against the page edge. Over here, you've got this margin. So just a couple of little indications here that we don't have a common grid. So you definitely want to establish a grid. Okay, now in the first composition, but you haven't grouped anything. And I think one of the reasons is because you've placed the image of the car in there. So remember, no car in the first 3 images, and first 3 compositions, only in the fourth. So in the first design, you don't have any contrast established at all. You're just listing the information, but you want to create contrast based on grouping. Here's an example of that. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different groups. So we have 5 levels of hierarchy, and the hierarchy is based on group. Okay, now in the second design, you'll want to introduce 1 new size and 1 new weight. Well, we have a new size and a new weight here, so that's good. But right now over here, I can see that the first 2 lines are out of alignment. So you definitely want to bring those back into alignment. And then also really work on the typographic composition. Okay, so over here we can see here's a new size. Instead of using 1 new size and 1 new weight, we've introduced a new size and a new weight. So now we're starting to really develop some typographic hierarchy here. Okay, in the third, you've only introduced still 1 new size and 1 new weight. So this is a new size and a new weight right here, but everything else remains the same. So in the third composition, don't forget you want to introduce multiple contrasts in weight and scale. And again, here's an example. Here's a large bold. This is a smaller bold. So there's a scale and weight. And then here again is a third level of hierarchy and indeed a fourth level of hierarchy here. So right now you've only got one contrast. So basically this composition here is the same as this composition here. The only thing you've done is move one of the lines of type. Okay, and then in the fourth, you want to introduce multiple contrasts in weight and scale and a cropped image of the car. So you've got the cropped image of the car, but don't forget the car needs to bleed in at least 2 places. Right now, you're only bleeding in one area. So again, if we take a look at that example, we can see here's the car bleeding here and here. Okay, so and then we've got multiple introduction of multiple weights and scale here. Okay, and you can use this image. I posted this right in the, here it is right here. I posted it in the discussion board here under this this kind of caveat in what to do to really adhere to the assignment requirements. So definitely you want to review those assignment requirements, review this information on the grid. Okay, review the book lectures, especially on typographic hierarchy. Page 101 is really effective. It shows there's a great visuals on page 101 on how to establish a typographic hierarchy. So really study those, and then we'll go ahead and get a look at your submission at that point. But so those are my recommendations. Another thing I want to recommend here that I'm just seeing right now is I'm seeing this 1967 here looks like it has been stretched. Okay, so it looks like you placed 1967 there and stretched it vertically without constraining horizontal proportions. So that's a big no-no in typography. You don't ever want to distort the words, letters, or phrases. So if you're going to reset, if you're going to place something and resize it, just make sure you hold your shift key down when you're dragging that bounding box to constrain the original proportions. Otherwise, you get this kind of stretched out look, and definitely you don't want that. Okay, so again, in summary, no cars in the first 3 compositions. The first composition is you need to create some grouping, so create hierarchy and grouping. The second one, try a new size and a new weight. Right now you've got a new size and a new weight all in one, but try to introduce a new size and then a separate new weight, as we see right here. New weight, new size, and then whatever, then the same thing over here. That's the same as that. We've introduced a new weight and a new size, scale, and then a new weight here. Then the third is multiple weights, multiple sizes. So here's introduction of another new size. Here's another new size, and yes, a third new size. Then we have different weights here, here, and here. And then we have what we started with. All right, and then the fourth, of course, is adding the image. All right, so those are my recommendations. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to clarify. Thank you.